Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our RITI session presented by the Office of Research Advancement. We are going to swing into summer with the summer workshop in grant writing with our first of three in a series, and it is Grant Writing 101. Presenting today will be Shonda Green, Kimberly Loach, and Dr. Ramaswamy Krishnamurthy. So without any further ado, I just want to let everyone know that this session is being recorded and it will be available on our YouTube channel, which is PVAMU Research. And I'd like to, at this time, turn it over to the Office of Research Advancement. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Summer Workshops in Grant Writing S.W.I.N.G series, organized by the Office of Research Advancement in collaboration with the Hanover Research. We are going to offer 3 workshops this summer, and today is the first one. It is actually thinking of a master plan, otherwise known as the essentials of grant writing. My ORA colleagues, Dr. Shonda Green and Dr. Kimberly Loach, will present details which should help you put together an effective grant proposal. Also, please note that we will gladly work with you in the process of proposal preparation. We offer various services in that regard, and please visit our website for details. I will also indicate some of the services offered in the next slide. May I remind you that budget preparation and submission of proposals to sponsor, namely pushing the button to the sponsors, will be done only by the Office of Sponsored Programs. So some of the roles that our research development officer play are outlined here. You can find these details on our website as well. So you can contact them anytime for assistance on any of those topics. As Karen mentioned, the presentation will be available to you, so I don't have to go through each one. And we are giving the contact website for OSP2. So that office deals with budget preparation and actual proposal submission, whereas we are concerned with the content preparation for your proposal, mainly project description and other related details, including supporting documents or support letters of that kind. Now, without much further ado, I invite Dr. Kimberly Loach to start the workshop. Kim?
Thanks, Krish. And thanks everybody for coming to listen to us today. We'll be monitoring the chat box. So if you have questions, just put them there. And at the end of the presentation or at certain times during the middle of the presentation, we'll stop to answer your questions. So when thinking about starting your proposal, there are a few steps that go into this. Usually there's a timeline from when you find your proposal all the way up until you're awarded, you're notified of your award. This consists of a pre-proposal time where you identify the solicitation that you want to apply to. And within that solicitation, there's usually some deadlines for the submission of the full proposal and the letter, a possible letter of interest or letter of intent. The next step is the proposal development and submission, and then you submit your proposal to the actual grant funding agency where they will have a review panel. Sometimes it's an individual review or it's a panel review, but your proposal is reviewed, and then if you are awarded the grant, then you are notified, and you'll be notified of any contract development that you need to do. Next slide. So there has been some confusion a little bit at Prairie View between an internal feature that we call intent to submit and the grant funding feature called letter of intent. So just to kind of clear this up a little bit, the internal intent to submit is for peer review notification of the necessary parties within the Research and Innovation Division, and particularly between the Office of Sponsor Programs and the Office of Research Advancement, to let us know that you want to apply for a certain funding opportunity. This intent to submit is found at our website, the PVAMU research website, and under the OSP designation. And the form, as you can see here, this is what it looks like. And you just fill out the information to tell us that you intend to, or you are thinking about submitting a proposal to a certain funding agency. The difference between the intent to submit and the letter of intent is the letter of intent is called for from the grant funding opportunity. And sometimes this is required and sometimes it's a courtesy. Sometimes they'll ask for a letter of intent so that they can make the necessary plans and have the necessary people available to review the grants when they come in. Sometimes it's a required step to go on to the next, or required step to move on to the full proposal. So, so to clarify, if you see something that says intent to submit on the Prairie View website, that is you notifying our offices that you want to apply to a funding opportunity. The letter of intent always comes from the grant funding agency, and that's their way of knowing that you want to either submit, you are submitting, or a requirement of theirs to move on to a full submission. Next.
Good afternoon, everyone. So we're going to look at the elements of the grant proposal. But first, I have a quick little quiz. What in the world does, you can answer in the chat box if you'd like, does the photo have to do with elements? Anyone? Pop quiz. Just type it in the text box. Yay, okay,
Yay.
Dr. Bush. Yes, that's correct. And Dr. Allen, absolutely. Earth, wind, and fire, the elements. So a typical application includes the standard informational forms that you'll need, the abstract or summary, narrative description of the proposed project. That's where you really want to make sure to catch the reader's eye. We can assist with all of these, but in your narrative is where you're describing the work. It's where in the first paragraph or two, you want to make sure to draw the reviewers and draw the readers in. The budget and narrative description, so you'll have your budget, and I know this is review for several of you, but you'll have your budget, and then you also have to justify each item in the budget. And then there are documents that the applicant, that describe the applicant qualifications and resources. For example, with NSF, they have a standard format that you have to have for your CV or your qualifications. And then many will require the resources that you have at your university or that you have available to you, so that they are aware that you can fully engage and fully support the work that you plan to do. If you have any collaborative plans, any MOUs, any memorandums of understanding or memorandums of support, make sure that you have those letters. And again, that we can support you in getting the letters if need be, or in kind of templates for writing those. And then any appendices or attachments that are required. And we often talk about that you really want to make sure to get some of those attachment pieces, some of those additional pieces or appendices pieces out of the way as early as possible. And then you can focus on the narrative and focus on the project description. We have seen where, and even have experienced it in our own writing of grants and proposals, that you'll get the narrative all done, or we'll get the narrative all done and then find out that, oh, we're missing a CV, or we're missing this document. And so it's crucial that all of them are done, and we strongly encourage you to get those extra pieces out of the way. Next slide. So we have a little exercise. This is an example of a draft of a proposal timeline. We can assist with timelines and outlines. With this, you would have what your milestones are, and then whose responsibility it is. If you're a PI with co-PIs, which is the principal investigator, I did see that question. or if you have co-PIs with you and then the date that those things are due, or whatever dates you have set up in your internal timeline for those to be due. So to begin the process, you can write your answers in the chat box. You complete the what to begin the process internally with Prairie View.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he is.
Kim just, yes, thank you. The
Thank
intent
you.
to submit, good job.
And just to, we had a question earlier. Does the intent to submit, must it be submitted before you actually submit your grant? And the answer is yes.
Yes.
The intent to submit lets Prairie View know that you need to submit a grant.
Thank you, Kim. Next, plan, highlight, and Oh, sorry, Chris, I didn't mean next year.
Okay.
Plan, highlight, and outline from the RFP. Who could assist with that? I know these are tough. If you could answer in the chat box.
Oh,
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. And designing a timeline. What other office, or maybe the same office, can assist with that? Great, thank you. So ORA, we can assist with both of those. And then drafting a budget. And who do you send the draft of your budget to? This one's a little tricky. Yes.
Yes.
OSP, good job. So again, to reiterate what Chris said, we support from the writing of the proposal, through any reviews, through any drafts, through supporting documents, through assisting you with the writing and planning and meetings, and bringing interdisciplinary partners together, bringing university partners together. OSP will assist you in the budget piece, and then they will also assist you in pushing the button or the actual submission. ORA will also assist you in if you need letters. So if you have required letters that you need from, say, your direct dean or someone that's in your line, you can request those. But we are here to assist and can help you in the drafts, editing, and then getting the letters to the VPR, provost, and the president's office if those are required. In the draft of the project description, are we available to assist? It's just a yes or no pop quiz question. Thank you. Yes, we are. We are available and happy to assist. Drafting attachments, we can assist with required formatting, the gathering of the information. Thank you again. Yes, we are. In terms of revising any documents in your project, whether it's a 6-page project or a 56-page project, who can help revise those? We do, and that's actually the answer. Thank you. So we do provide proofreading in addition to the writing and the assistance in reviewing and editing. So absolutely, that our office provides that regarding proposals. We strongly suggest that you submit drafts to peer or external reviewers in addition to us, because your reviewers that are reading, or readers that are reading, they aren't necessarily in your field. And so it's really important that things are explained in such a way that a lay reader can understand them, as well as someone who's an expert in the field. Reviewing feedback, revising documents, you want to make sure that you take care of those, double and triple checking the to-do list. So OSP will also provide you with a very succinct to-do list. When you have that, we strongly suggest that you double and triple check that, just like anything else. When I've written, I've had to go back and back and back to make sure that I'm not missing this 3rd component or this 20th component. And then final review and revisions, submit your final documents. In an ideal world, you would be submitting 3 days before the deadline. However, we know that not all worlds are ideal when it comes to writing proposals. And so as early as possible, frequently we know that it's on the deadline when final documents are being submitted, but the more time you can give the submitting office, the better. And I saw a question around turnaround. We say that it takes us approximately 2 days, 2 business days to read, edit, and provide it back. We can often do it in a quicker turnaround. It just depends on how many we have on our desk and where we are in the process. We've had some where we might work with them from beginning to end. And so we might do several iterations. And then there's some where we read it are doing the review at the end of the entire document. So it just varies. And then of course you would have your grant deadline. Next slide.
Okay, before we move on, just to close out that section, are there any more questions that we can address? Okay, so next we're going to talk about actual starting process of your proposal development. And this begins by carefully reviewing all the grantmaker materials. And the first thing we're going to talk about are the grantmaker guidance forms that are out there. So for NSF, the PAPPG, or for NIH, the Form E or F. These are really huge documents and kind of daunting. So again, that's where you can turn to us if you need support in figuring out your formatting and some of the other things. But if you take the time to kind of look through them, you'll see that they have definitive policies and procedures and priorities that they want you to pay attention to. Next, please. So you found your solicitation or your funding opportunity that you want to apply to. And so there are a number of things that you should know. The first one is eligibility. Now there are different kinds of eligibility. There's institutional eligibility, there's PI eligibility. And so you have to pay attention, especially to the institution eligibility with some things called limited submissions, which means that the institution is eligible to only submit a certain number of proposals for that funding opportunity. And then again, that's a area again where you would work through our office and the Office of Sponsored Programs with a pre-proposal to determine who would go on to the full proposal submission. The other thing to pay attention to are the deadlines, and we go over this and over this because there are no late submissions. They won't review your proposal if it's late. So again, pay attention to your deadlines, and especially if it's a limited submission, there's going to be an internal peer review deadline that you must meet with your pre-proposal in order to be selected to go on to, again, submit the full proposal. Also pay attention to your narrative formatting and the required content. And again, this is stuff we can help you with, but just as an example, for the NIH project summary or abstract, what many of you probably don't realize is that there is a limit on the number of text lines that you can have. So there you can only have 30 lines of text for your abstract or your narrative or your project summary. So again, I've had a couple come across my desk that were, almost 2 pages long, and we obviously had to shorten those. So these are things, again, that we can help you with, knowing the formatting and knowing the content of what goes into your proposal. Next.
So once you've gone through those pieces, we suggest that you make sure that you are able to answer that you have answered all of these questions in your narrative, in your proposal, because these are the questions that the reviewers ought not have to wonder about, or don't want to, or will not wonder about, and also have a successful proposal. So make sure that you answer what will be done in your project and who is going to do the work. So if the PI is going to do this segment, if there's another university that's going to do this, if there's an organization, if there are additional co-PIs, if there's something that postdocs are going to do, but just that you're very clear on who will do the work and where they will do it. Is there a lab that's set up? Is it out at the farm? Is it going to take place at this accompanying university? Are you going to have meetings via Zoom, or are the meetings going to take place elsewhere? And how will you do the work? Is it going to be done in collaboration? Is it going to be done individually? The tools and resources you'll use, you'll run into some of this in your budgeting if you're asking for equipment or if there's things that you need to use, but also if there are existing items that you are planning to use to support the work, or existing lab materials, you would want to include that there. And then make sure that you have defined how you will know if the project is successful. If you keep track of these and make sure that you are constantly asking these questions, then it will be much easier for you to have a complete proposal so that they aren't asking any questions at the end about the essential components. Next. So now we're going to go into a little bit of designing the actual narrative. Next slide.
Okay, so the narrative has many elements and they're similar among funding agencies, but just in general, there's an introduction, a statement of the problem, some literature review, conceptual framework, hypothesis, methodology, scope of work, and then some supplementary things, the management plan, staff and institutional qualifications, and the evaluation plan. These last three will go into in other workshops. So today we'll just talk about the introduction through scope of work. Next, please. So your introduction should bring your reader into the world of your project and make them want to read the whole narrative, meaning you need to make the reviewer really interested in your work. So you have to be concise and excited about your work, but not use flowery words. You want to orient the reader to your project, and you want to specify what your project's overall goals are. You don't want to meander or digress or put unnecessary background information in, because that can bog your writing down and make the reviewer lose interest. And you also don't want to make unsubstantiated claims about your project's impact. Again, be concise and be excited so that you draw your reader in. And so when they get to the bottom of that first page, they want to flip the page and continue to read your proposal. Next, please.
You'll have your statement of the problem, and that's going to let the reader know and the reviewer know why this project is worth doing. Why is it something that's essential? Why is it something that's needed? So make sure that you describe the problem or answer, or the question that you're going to answer. Show why it's important and the overall scope of whatever the field is. Why is this an important problem to solve? Is it food security? Is it water security? Is it something with community? What is it that, why is this important to the world? Why is it important to the community? Point out the potential impact, broader impact of this solution. And then, of course, always use data whenever possible, whether qualitative or quantitative. It's essential that you have some data to support the importance of it. Why is there a gap? What's missing? What is out there that's not, that doesn't reach quite where you're going to reach, where your research will reach? And then don't just restate the information from the solicitation. You can certainly use keywords, but you don't want to just restate the information that they're already giving you. So if they say the world is in turmoil and COVID-19 is impacting communities, you don't want to restate what they already know, but you need to find a way to be clear about how you are going to impact COVID-19 in the particular area that you're studying. Next. So when I first see the words literature review, it's been a long, long time since I did my dissertation, but I think I still get a little chill when I read those terms. Nonetheless, make sure that you look at the background or the significance or the literature around your area, and do review what's been done, find your niche, find the gap that you're going to fill, show that you have an understanding of the field, that you're aware, and cover your bases in terms of citations. Major hitters in the field, make sure that you are including those and you are well aware. Don't omit any key citations so that they have to wonder, oh, where is so-and-so in this field, or why haven't they cited this? And then also, just like if you're writing a persuasive essay, don't fail to address any conflicting work or any other opinions. Make sure that you've covered that as well, so they're not wondering, but what about this and what about that? And it really is a careful balance, because you do need to be concise. You are limited in pages, but you also have to make sure that you are articulating clearly, that you have a full understanding, you're citing the proper sources, and you are making sure that you have the breadth and depth within the limitations. Next.
So next, you want to communicate what's called conceptual framework. So that's your approach to the work. And here, you know, in everybody's field, there's theories or concepts that kind of guide what you're doing. So you want to address those, but you also want to address if there's any deficiencies in those that your project might fill, or how you can connect your project with the theories and concepts out there that that will provide more information for the public or for your field to know about. So here, don't be vague, again, be concise, and don't fail to bridge the gap between theory and practice. So, you know, what you're proposing, how will you do that in practice, and how will that translate into other people, either reproducing your work or impacting their work? Next. The next thing is your research questions. These are your hypotheses, and it indicates what new knowledge you want to seek. So do clearly state the hypotheses and questions, and explain how testing these hypotheses or answering the questions will solve the stated problem and fill identified gaps in literature or in the field. Please try not to use vague or confusing wording. Sometimes we all have our own language in our field, and you have to remember that sometimes the person who's reviewing your proposal may not be someone who is directly in your field. They may be associated with it somehow or another, or maybe they don't even know about your field. And so again, don't use vague or confusing wording that they wouldn't understand. And don't include hypotheses that are not testable or falsifiable. So you want to make sure that if somebody looks at your work, that they can conduct the same experiment you did in their lab and get a similar result. Next.
Okay, in terms of methodology and strategy, a few more do's and don'ts. Make sure that you are clear, just like the other guidance regarding your implementation methods. Include the procedures, the work, the implementation, and any protocols that you are going to follow, and then include enough detail so that the reader can determine whether it's appropriate and whether it makes sense. And then don't assume, just as Kim just stated, that your reader knows what you're talking about. So be very clear, make sure to explain everything. And again, it's a balancing act because it is within the limitations. Next. So the scope of the work communicates exactly what you plan to do and it will leave out what you don't plan to do. So make sure that you have not included limitations if that's not what or delimitations. So describe exactly what will be done, include the sequence of the proposed activities, how, when, where, what, include all activities necessary, and then provide a viable schedule for carrying out the tasks. This also follows along with the budget. Make sure that you have budgeted enough to do the work and that your work matches what you are asking for, and make sure that you have viable tasks and a viable schedule. So if you have a year, if they're asking for 12 months versus 5 years, you need to make sure that your work is clearly aligned with that timeline. And then just don't, obviously, not include enough detail. Don't have an insufficient amount of information where they, again, are asking questions. Next. Krish?
As I mentioned at the beginning, we are collaborating with Hanover Research. It is a firm specializing in offering services for grant writing and grant reviews. And if you are preparing a large scale proposal in sufficient details, and if you are ahead of the curve in terms of time, we can have it reviewed by Hanover Research. They will provide the editing services too. They have been successful in many universities. So if you are planning on a multi-institutional, multidisciplinary proposal, and if you can start your work ahead of the deadline, say more than a couple of months, it will be very good. We can have it reviewed by Hanover Research, and then you can work with our colleagues at ORA and turn in a very sharp and competitive proposal. Shanda, Kim, do you want to add anything?
No, you can go to the next. Thank you. So again, we wanted to thank Hanover for working with us and contributing to this presentation. And if you have any questions, please enter those in the chat box and Kieran will read them for us to respond to. We really do thank you and appreciate you taking part in participating in this session.
As we have announced at the beginning, this is the first workshop in the series. The next workshop will focus on writing competitive proposals, identifying elements that are necessary within the framework that we provided today. And the third one would be on information that would be useful to you regarding different funding agencies, what they support, what they look for. So the third one will cover those aspects. Now to question and answer session.
Okay, you've got several questions in the chat box. So one of the question is, what is your turnaround time on revisions and reviews?
So we generally state 48 hours or 2 business days. We can get them done depending on our workload a little sooner, but you typically want to give us at least 2 business days.
Okay, and does Aura provide proofreading services?
We do. So that is a part of what we do, reviewing, proofreading, editing. We will provide, so we do work throughout from the very beginning when you first put in your intent to submit throughout every component of the proposal. One of those areas that we support is the proofreading, editing. We'll provide you with track changes, questions, and advisement.
Okay. And here's another question. Can you clarify what you mean by unsubstantiated impact?
So unsubstantiated impact, you want to just make sure what you're claiming you're going to prove or what you're claiming that you want to study, you can you can do. You don't want to say something that you can't do or that would not have any impact on your field.
Okay.
Krish?
So ensuring that you have the skills and the experience to do what you're saying that you're going to do.
Yes.
Okay, and before I go into the next question, I want to encourage everyone to complete the brief survey that is in the chat box so that we can get feedback to the team presenting today. Okay, so faculty may want to know how much Aura can assist in the introductory or storytelling section or paragraph in alignment with the RFP.
We are able to support you from, again, the beginning of your proposal writing and work through the submission. And so we can assist you as you are doing the pre-writing pieces, as well as writing that initial narrative, writing the summary. So all of those components we are available to support you with.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to add, however, the PI must provide subject content. RDOs or our office can work with the subject content and do editing or arrange different elements to provide a cohesive and a coherent story, but then we are not subject matter experts, so that content should be provided by the PI.
Correct. Correct. Okay, so what do you mean when you say a large scale project?
We say any proposal that has a budget over 500K, we consider it as a large proposal. Typically, our proposals are around 300K, but we want to encourage our faculty members to aim higher, meaning go higher up beyond 500K, because that opens up a large number of opportunities, but in a more competitive environment. And we want to assist as much as we can so that they can be successful. That is one of the prime aims of this Office of Research Advancement. We want to move up in scale and success.
Absolutely. And here's another question that comes up often. Can you list agencies where funding may be available?
We're so glad you asked. If you go to our YouTube channel, and Karen can tell you more about where exactly that is. In our presentation last week, the WHO, we actually have a page, a slide in there that details several, many organizations, foundations, where you can find funding. And Kim, do you want to talk a little about these sites?
Yeah, and you can either go to our webpage, our Prairie View Research webpage, and the ORA tab there, we have a listing, or we have links to 2 different websites where you can find funding opportunities. That would be grants.gov, which lists funding opportunities from all of the federal agencies. And then there's pivot.com, which lists funding opportunities from not only federal agencies, but from also private foundations. And Pivot also will allow you to help or find funding opportunities for students also. Okay. But all of that can be found at our website.
Okay, and here's another question. Can your office help with figures, or is there a budget to create professional figures, graphs, charts as part of proposals?
Chris, do you want to take?
Unfortunately, we do not deal with the budget preparation. Budget preparation is handled by the Office of Sponsored Programs, and we can suggest tables or graphics, but we do not have a resource to do that ourselves. We can arrange
to also answer. We do have a marketing specialist in our division. And if it's a large proposal and you need additional help, we will be able to provide help. But we don't have a set budget or an individual to help that part.
Okay, more questions? Let's see. Okay, will Aura assist in identifying sponsors and RFPs that relate to one's area of expertise and or interest?
Yes, of course. Faculty members are in fact encouraged to send their research areas. We can identify funding opportunities. We can send RFPs. In fact, our office is carrying out those tasks already. We are familiar with most of faculty members' research areas, and whenever a funding opportunity is announced, we immediately contact those faculty members with those RFPs, and we offer assistance. So if there is any specific area, any faculty member is very much welcome to contact us, and we will provide the required assistance.
Okay, let's see if there are any questions that I skipped. This has been a very well attended RITI session. I think that the information that you're presenting today is information that everyone is interested in hearing more about. So thank you for this 3-part series. And we invite everyone to join us on Monday for another RITI session with Dr. Rebecca Faison as she presents on economic empowerment. I do see one other question here. Do you have proposal templates for various funding agencies?
Yeah, I do understand.
And do that. So we already have envelopes and we have labels, so we don't have to fool with that.
Yeah, we got what we need as far as that. Yeah.
Give me just a minute.
Okay.
I'm sorry, someone else answered that question? No.
No, there's just some talking.
Yeah.
There is no single template because each RFP we go through in detail, and in fact, each RFP will list what elements are needed in a proposal. So that is why NSF has a large book on guidelines for proposal preparation. Same way, even within NSF, different RFPs require different elements to be addressed for any particular program. So there is no standard template.
Okay.
I think there's also one more question. Krish, if you could, someone is asking about the selection process for limited submission opportunities after the intent to submit and pre-proposal is submitted.
Okay. Whenever the number of pre-proposal exceeds the number of full proposals allowed per institution, OSP collects all those pre-proposals and send the package to Office of Research Advancement. We, in consultation with VPR, constitute an ad hoc committee of reviewers made up of faculty members. We are not part of the review panel. We facilitate the reviewing of all the pre-proposals. Typically, a pre-proposal is reviewed at least by 3 faculty members, and in sometimes even more. For example, the USDA CBG pre-proposals were each reviewed by 4 faculty members. They are given guidelines of the corresponding to the RFPs, and they are given metrics, and they are asked to provide summaries of strengths and weaknesses. So all those elements are assembled and ranked, and the ad hoc committee sends the recommendations to VPR, who finally announces the selection. Then the selected, the PIs of the selected pre-proposals are informed, and the results are conveyed to Office of Sponsored Programs, who will contact the winners to proceed further.
Okay. Here's another question. I'm submitting a proposal that is due in 3 weeks, but my documents won't be ready until 10 days from today. Will Hanover have enough time to revise and polish my proposal?
Unfortunately not. That is not enough time for Hanover. However, we can work with you now as you're putting it together, and we can review when you are finished.
Hanover typically requires 2 weeks.
Okay. Here's another question. Could we receive help on the intent to submit pre-proposals that have been rejected?
Yes.
Yes.
If any proposal has been rejected, we will help you do your revisions and make your proposal better for another submission.
Okay, and I may have asked this question already, but how can Aura help put together a team from other campuses and national labs?
It starts with potential faculty members expressing an interest in a particular area of research and willing to identify researchers on our campus. Then Aura will look for collaborators on other campuses or of the system, or even elsewhere in the nation. We have databases readily accessible. We can identify potential collaborators and then get the potential PI in touch with the other group and facilitate a discussion among the faculty members to put together a large proposal, and we'll be happy to assist in every stage. Does that answer the question?
The person that asked the question, if you are still needing additional information, you can always contact the Office of Research Advancement. I'd like to ask everyone again to please complete the brief survey that is attached. I know that there were some problems with the survey, but it is prepared now, and our Vice President for Research has a couple of things that he would like to say. So Dr. Rajan?
Thank you, Karen. I want to thank the Office of Research Advancement, Dr. Krish, and the Research Development Officers. We call them RDOs, and they did a fantastic job today to cover the initial part of the proposal items. But the faculty, we know that the proposal contains a lot of these sections. This office and what RDOs are trying to provide a service that usually doesn't exist in many campuses, and we want our faculty to take advantage of, is to get help in areas that are not really part of the core scientific or technical or your expert area. That includes introduction part, outreach, broader impact, education part, proposal or project evaluation, putting together the supplemental materials, and so on. So there are a lot of moving pieces, and you could get a lot of help from our team here. And that way you could focus more on the technical part. Anyone working on NSF Career Grant this summer, junior faculty member, I highly encourage you work with our research development officers. Those are highly scrutinized proposals, and then we want to provide the best help as possible. And I believe the S.W.I.N.G session will continue, and they will cover more parts of proposal development in the upcoming session. And this is one of the highly attended and participated sessions, so we are pleased to see that. Please share this with other colleagues for the next session so that more faculty will benefit from this. So once again, thank you for participating, and over to Karen.
Okay, do you have any final thoughts, Dr. Krish, Dr. Green, or Dr. Loesch?
Just like the slide says, our office exists to assist, and so we welcome your communication and your feedback and your questions at any time.
Yes, and someone just messaged that they submitted an intent to submit form. Will someone get back to you? Definitely. You will definitely hear back from the Office of OSP that they got your intent to submit, and then we will also be copied on that email and be reaching out to you. So thank you.
Okay, so again, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We know that there can be a lot of other places that you can be, but you chose to spend this hour with us, and we hope that it was worth your time. Large in attendance today. We thank you for that. And again, as Dr. Krish said, this is the first part of a three-part series on grant writing. So we hope that with the information that you'll learn in this three-part series, we'll be able to turn out some amazing research proposals. Please take a few moments to complete the survey, the Qualtrics survey, and all of the sessions that we have on RITI and also on Research Data Blitz are available on our YouTube channel, which is PVAMU Research. We encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and to all of our social media platforms. Again, we thank you for joining us, and have a great day.